This is Dr. Chris's Radio Horror program at 91.3 FM, WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, with a recorded interview with Sirc Michaels, the director of the Evil Dead musical, currently happening in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Sirc.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and thank you to everyone who's listening to Dr. Chris Radio Horror. Thanks for having me.
Sirc, how did you get involved with the Evil Dead musical? How did this project come about?
Back in October of 2011, we staged it at a theater off the Strip called the Onyx Theater here in Las Vegas. I had produced it once before in Texas, so I was relatively familiar with it. My wife is a big fan of Bruce Campbell and Evil Dead, the Evil Dead franchise. So she really pushed for me to do something with it. I looked into it here in Vegas and just ran at it full barrel. Got a great cast together. We ended up having people out the door during that run. We did it again in January with no marketing whatsoever, and we sold out even more than we did in October. Once we did that, we knew we had something special. Talked to the author of the show and secured the rights to take the show to the Strip. It sounds, very easy when I put it like that, but it was a very long journey. It's the first show in Las Vegas history to be developed off the Strip and then moved to the Strip. So it says a lot to the strength of the fans of that genre, not just Evil Dead specifically, but just in general, sort of horror and comedy. It's a very bizarre kind of show. It's not just one sort of facet. So it really speaks to kind of what the nature of entertainment is changing into over time, and it's even reflected here clearly in Las Vegas.
Sirc, what other projects have you worked on personally?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What other projects have you worked on?
Oh, I cut my teeth actually producing probably about 20 years ago. It might be more now. God. The Rocky Horror Show, not the movie thing. I mean, it's a play that the movie is based on, so it's a live musical. We couldn't, at the time, we couldn't find any theaters that would allow us to use their space, so we had to take it into these little punk clubs and things like that. And we kind of put a tour together working with Rich O'Brien and Christopher Malcolm over in London, a little mini tour of Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. And that's sort of where I really cut my teeth. Did that for a number of years. I've produced and directed Rocky Horror all over the country over the past 2 decades. So that's really where a lot of my experience stems from. I mean, I've done other shows, but that was the first show that I really got into. And the way in which we were forced to do it made me bring the show to people who don't give a damn about theater. And that sort of retooled my thinking, focused me much more on my peers and much more on people who weren't in the theater. So I sort of have an enjoyment. I take a great deal of pleasure in introducing people to shows that are not Shakespeare and Oklahoma. They're being exposed to something quite different. I like to do theater for people who don't give a damn about theater, because ultimately converts are much more fanatical than people who are already into it. So just the slew of shows in that vein. A lot of sort of cult classic kind of shows, interactive. That's always sort of been the thrust, because I've always liked to reach out to people who don't normally go to shows.
What can people expect from your Evil Dead musical? What are the best elements it takes from the films?
Evil Dead the musical is a mashup of the plot lines of Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2 with all of the iconic lines and humor of Army of Darkness. You put them all together homage to the films, but it also, pokes fun at all of the conventions of horror films in general. Um, it's definitely a pretty wild experience. People sit down in what we call the splatter zone. They will have the best seats in the house. They get white commemorative T-shirts that have targets on them and say "Evil Dead the Musical," and we basically cover them in blood throughout the course of the show. By the time they leave, they're basically covered from head to toe in blood. We tell them we go through 20 gallons of fresh, warm blood every night at the show. So it's more like a party than anything else. I mean, if you're not into getting covered with blood, we do have seats that are, as we like to call, a little more pussified, and those are our VIP seating and our general admission seating, all of which are great seats nonetheless. But for those real diehard fans who want to get the full 4D experience, they sit right down there at the stage, and the performers interact with them. Also, we took a lot of care to make sure that Ash is what people are expecting. The first act, which carries most of Evil Dead 1 and then parts of Evil Dead 2, Ash is sort of, the normal everyman. And then there's an intermission, and then for the second act, it is Ash from Army of Darkness. So, he's got the severed hand, the ripped shirt, the harness, the broomstick, the whole 9 yards. We took a lot of care to make sure that the props were correct, the look was correct. While we are not attempting to imitate Bruce Campbell on stage, we are trying to give the audience a full sort of characterization of Ash and all of the crazy characters that inhabit those stories and that world. So, for fans of the film series, they will be able to see the character come to life right before them and interact with them. For those who are not even aware of the films, we turn them into fans because it's just so damn entertaining. People come in and they're, it's sort of like a party. It's almost like going to Rocky Horror. If you've never been there, you don't know what to expect. By the end of it, you're laughing and cheering along with everyone else. It's sort of this big group experiment between the audience and the performers on stage.
Who writes the musical? Where did you guys come up with the zany songs for the play?
Well, I do have to say that none of that is mine. I am the director and producer, but it was written by a very talented group of people from Toronto, of all places. Primarily George Reinblatt and Christopher Bond. There were some others who wrote the music as well, and parts of the script, but mostly it was written by George Reinblatt and Christopher Bond. And they've gone on to do great things. Christopher Bond also helped create Night of the Living Dead Live, which is doing very well up in Toronto. He also did A Little Bit Zombie, which is a film. George Reinblatt is a comedy writer, writes for a whole stable of A-list comedians. So, has a pretty good pedigree, and that's why the songs are funny, because the people who developed this show, back before they were anything, mind you. I mean, they were basically college kids who created the show. This was almost 10 years ago that they made it. They were already showing chops and skills with what they were putting together with it. The songs themselves sort of make fun of what people expect from musicals. So there's a variety of styles of songs, but they all also make fun of those styles while celebrating them, which is sort of keeps in theme with the entire show itself, that it's sort of making fun of the very thing it's celebrating, which makes it a lot more entertaining than just, sort of a big, beautiful homage to the thing. It sort of also poked fun at all the goofiness in it, because the story itself, the movie's based on themselves, primarily Army of Darkness. That was really where they gave up and just made a complete comedy.
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely more of a straight up kind of slapsticky comedy. Did you like the remake?
Yeah, we actually we worked with Sony when they released the film here in Las Vegas. We went to all the premieres and promoted the film and everything. And as far as I was concerned, I thought it was a great movie. I'm not as addicted to being a quote unquote purist. I think that if you can find something new or find a new way of telling a story, I mean, do it. The public clearly enjoyed the film. It was a hit. By the end of it, the tone of it was far more serious than the original movies. The first one, I think, is what they would have made if they had the budget and the experience when they first made that first movie. It was intended to be a real horror movie, and I think this probably came closer to what they had intended. The one great thing about it is, by the end of the film, the lead character had basically become sort of a larger-than-life, sort of almost caricature of herself. She rips her own hand off and has a great one-liner at the end, and chainsaws the bad guy's body in half, and it was very reminiscent to me of Ash. So I think they got the tone right. I know people are somewhat divided on whether or not they like it. I think overall it was a great story. I don't know if it fits neatly in with Ash's story, but I would be very excited to see them sort of marry those two storylines together and have an adventure between Mia and Ash. I think that could be quite exciting.
I think that's what they kind of want to do. Bruce Campbell has already said that Evil Dead 2 is a go. It begins filming this year, and then they want to make another film, and then have that film bridge into the film with the two series tied together. And as long as Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi have control of the franchise, which they do, they can do. It can happen.
Yeah, well, Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi say a lot. The Army of Darkness 2 is supposed to come out. Oh, no, just kidding. Oh, yeah, it is. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. I'll wait until it's officially announced, truly officially announced before I get too excited about it. If they do something like that, I think it'll be brilliant. But, you already have three fantastic films that has time. The original film trilogy spans generations and has been influential to a great number of filmmakers. And I think that alone, if nothing else ever comes of them, that's a great testament to what a few college kids with some ambition and a couple of bucks in their pocket, and not many bucks, what they can do, what they can accomplish. I think our show is very much in that same spirit. We are not a large Cirque du Soleil, which is owns half the strip here. We're not any of these very large companies. We very much, like the original filmmakers, are small, independent guys who love this type of material and are putting it on stage for fellow fans. I think that's why it resonates. I think that's why the show has lasted longer than many larger shows that have come through Vegas and have closed, because we reached that sort of audience and that demographic that's typically ignored. And my hope is, of course, that over the course of time, that will start to shift, and there will be more shows, maybe not directly competitive with us, but more shows that would appeal to people beyond just French clowns dancing around on stage, which is 90% of what Las Vegas has to offer right now.
And you have said before that your show is probably the biggest one on the Strip, even bigger than Celine Dion.
Well, I would say that if you talk to our fans, it is the only show on the Strip. We have the difference here between us and a lot of the larger shows. Now, we are not in a massive showroom. The show by design is very intimate because we want people, even in the cheapest seat, way in the back, we want them to feel like they're part of the show. So by design, we are actually in a slightly smaller showroom. Some of these guys are in 1,500 seat amphitheaters where they look like ants if you sit in the back. don't come to shows over and over and over and over and over like that, and bring fans, guests, and family members and friends who come into town. So we have a very strong following here locally, but we also have a very strong following outside of the country even. So we have fans who live in Great Britain, for instance, who actually come to Vegas to see our show on a semi-regular basis. We also have fans from Australia who every time they're in town for holiday, they come to see our show. That's just, that to me speaks volumes. While we are not filling an amphitheater, we are not spending $10 million a month in advertising. I think in the way in which we do what we do, we are much bigger than those other shows. We are the official Real Deal live stage show of one of the greatest cult classic film franchises of all time. I would put that up against any flash in the pan Britney Spears or anything else. Britney Spears, well, she's big. She's here in Vegas right now. She's been around for a number of years. Evil Dead will be around long after her career has gone in the toilet. You know what I mean? Like,
it already is in the toilet.
After all these,
It already is in the toilet.
well, after all these people have come and gone, this film franchise will still be here. And I am very honored to be able to sort of be a part of a very big and bold legacy from a bizarre film franchise that has sort of affected a lot of people. We hope that we do the same with our show. We hope that we are exposing people who normally wouldn't go to theater. Suddenly they realize, well, theater doesn't suck if it's something like this. So maybe they'll go out and test the waters with other things. I'm not suggesting that, the guy who plays World of Warcraft in his basement is going to come see our show and then suddenly start singing songs from Oklahoma. But, I think that it exposes people who ordinarily wouldn't be exposed, and sort of that can have a sort of a ripple effect. So I'm pretty proud of what we've managed to accomplish here. So for me, this is the biggest thing for me right now, probably the biggest thing I've ever done. So yeah, to me, it's bigger than any damn show on the Strip. We've managed to compete where much larger shows have come and gone, and we're still here. We've been on the Strip since June of 2012. We're coming up on our second year anniversary this coming June. We're expanding our shows, so we're going to be doing more performances each week pretty soon here. So we are growing, and I'm just excited by what the future holds for this show here in Las Vegas.
All right, Sirc, where can they go to get information about the play? We're at time.
Okay, so if people are interested in the show, they should check out our website. Very easy, evildeadvegas.com. Nice and simple. If they want to check us out on Facebook, it's Evil Dead Vegas. If they want to check us out on Twitter, guess what? Evil Dead Vegas. We try to make things very easy for people. We're at the V Theater inside Planet Hollywood. Currently, we perform every weekend, Fridays at 10, Saturdays at 11:30. We do sometimes have special show times, and for instance, this weekend we're performing at 10 on Saturday. So we encourage people to sort of go to our website, follow the link to tickets, and then look to see the date that they're interested in. And then later this month, we are currently we're currently working out the details, but it looks like we'll be advancing it 6 nights a week at 10 p.m. So we'll be slaying nightly every night at 10 here in about 3 weeks, which we're very excited about. So yeah, that Evil Dead Vegas. That's the short answer to your question.
All right, cool, awesome. Thank you, Sirc, for